This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, we are all set and when you started.
All right, it is 6:01. I will now call to order this meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted in person and simultaneously via remote participation online to the greatest extent possible. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Easthampton website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and online meetings will not be restarted, and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. Kathy, do you have some housekeeping issues to review?
Yes, just reiterating, if any technical difficulties occur or the meeting ends abruptly, the hearing will be automatically administratively continued to April 10th meeting at 6 p.m. and will not resume tonight. Please contact the conservation agent at 413-529-1463 or conservation@easthamptonma.gov for any questions. All participants are asked to remain muted until it is time for public comments. Participants should use the raise hand function or send a chat to the agent. Please state your name for the record at the beginning of any comments, and please do not utilize the chat function unless it is necessary to indicate to the agent that you would like to make a comment. All private chats are generated into a transcript that will be included in the public record and are not, in fact, private. Discussion within the chat is prohibited.
All right. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items?
I have not received any, and I don't know if anyone here, seems like likely everyone's here for an item.
Okay. Our first public hearing then is continued from 3:13 for a notice of intent filed by Furrow Engineering on behalf of Tasty Top Development LLC for a new mixed-use commercial and residential development with associated stormwater management system at 93, 95, and 97 Northampton Street, map 128, lots 112, 113, and 114, Mass DEP file number 1510322. And I understand that the applicant has asked for a continuance.
Yep, yeah, I received a message from them that they'd like to continue. Part of the reason was because they're still working on getting the soil test pit information.
Okay.
Motion to continue at 6 p.m. on April 10th.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, roll call vote. Ryan?
Aye.
Weeks?
Aye.
August?
Aye.
Whittemore?
Aye.
Carr?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Motion carries. So we will continue that one until April 10th. Thank you.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry. Oh, thanks.
Our next item is a request for certificate of compliance for One Industrial Lofts LLC, 1 Ferry Street, Mass DEP file number 1510298 for tract 1 of the mill redevelopment project, map 135 and 131, lots 2 and 1.
I don't know, Brian, I know you're here for different item. Can you repeat that if they continue?
Yeah, for the record, Ryan Nelson from Harlow Beck Associates, still working on the revised, or requested revisions that was discussed at the 2 meetings prior. So we'd be requesting a continuance for tonight on that matter.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to continue to April 10th at 6 p.m. Second.
All those in favor? Ryan?
Aye.
Weeks?
Aye.
August?
Aye.
Whittemore?
Aye.
Carr?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Motion carries. Our next item is a request for certificate of compliance for the City of Easthampton, 1 Industrial Lofts, 1 Ferry Street, Mass DEP file number 1510317 for slope grading, vegetation management, and stormwater basin. I'm guessing that's the same situation?
Yes. Same request. Yeah.
Okay.
Motion to continue to April 10th at 6 p.m. Second.
All those in favor? Ryan?
Aye.
Weeks?
Aye.
August?
Aye.
Whittemore?
Aye.
Carr? Patrick?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, thank you. So moving on to enforcement actions. Kathy, do we have updates on any of the existing ones before we get to the new one?
93 Northampton Street. Dan, if you're here for that. Or...
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I don't have a big update. Dan at GZA. I just went to the site this evening. I've been having trouble getting out there earlier. I did look at an area 100 feet upstream and 100 feet downstream of both crossings. So it's roughly about a 300-foot area, 280 feet long. And I've got 3 primary invasive species that we're finding in there: Tartarian honeysuckle, multiflora rose, and some winged euonymus. There's actually some pretty big winged euonymus in there, burning bush. They're anywhere from 15 to 30% of that area. That's something the commission wanted us to report back on. What I don't really know yet is that enough area to look at? Did you want me to look at a bigger area? That was sort of somewhat up for debate last time. I don't think we really settled on the size area that we were going to look at. But I figured we talked about 50 at the meeting. I went 100 feet in both directions from both crossings and just reviewed the area and just give you a general number of what I'm seeing up there.
Do you know, Dan, how far downstream we are from the location where the bridge is? How far downstream that is from the beginning of the system?
Of the wetland system, of the stream?
In feet?
I'm going to be guessing about 150, maybe 120 feet below the road, but then the stream comes from across the street, so north of 10. I'm not sure where that actually begins. But like we said on the stream stats, it's got a 0.35 square mile watershed, so it's pretty substantial.
Mm-hmm. I asked because one of the things we were trying to get a handle on last time was, wanting to make sure that if we looked at invasives management as part of the restoration, if, how far would we have to go to have some real benefit and not just have it come back in from the other direction. This is the best one. Can you remind me around what flag number that existing crossing is? Do you know?
I do not. That's something I have to look on that.
Somewhere like right.
We're the crossing here. We're crossing right there. It right is the existing stream crossing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just slightly downstream is the new one. I want to say about 30 feet downstream is where the new crossing's going to go.
Do other members of the commission have questions and thoughts at this point?
I have a question about the seed mix. When you do the seed mix, is it feasible or possible to add a pollinator mix in that area? Is that something that could be done for that particular restoration?
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess the question is whether you think the area is big enough.
I think it would be helpful to see it again. We keep putting off our site visit for the main project, the changes that are ongoing. But maybe it would be good to get eyes on it again.
Sure. Was there a date being floated around?
I think we passed it on.
Oh.
I think it was around, I don't know, but
Okay.
we never settled on anything, but,
Yeah.
is there a particular date that would work with you? Because your schedule seems to be the most constrained potentially. Yeah.
I could potentially do something early on Wednesday this week.
I could do early Wednesday.
Does the weather look reasonable on Wednesday?
Thought so.
Better than tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow, well, tomorrow's not terrible. Wednesday looks fine for the weather. So far.
Yeah, well, the underground has partly sunny, 55 degrees.
Okay.
Sorry, which Wednesday is it?
This Wednesday.
29th.
Who else is interested in going out?
I will definitely try to attend. Sean, yeah.
Does that work for folks Wednesday morning?
How does that, is this one of those things where we have to have it open to the public and not can only go a few people at it?
Yes. Well,
I would recommend that we avoid quorum as just a general precaution in all
it's not a
instances.
hearing though.
Right.
I don't know if that changes it or not.
Sounds
a
like
good question.
discuss anything.
But I mean, there's not even a hearing. This is an enforcement order, so there's not a,
Right, okay.
we're not in a public hearing setting.
Right, true.
So it may not matter, but I don't really know because we used to think we understood these rules and they're changing them on it.
Maybe a safe way to do it would be to have like a 15-minute buffer anyways.
Yeah, we could. And Dan, were you wanting to get back out to see this or?
Not necessarily. I could not make it on Wednesday anyway.
Okay.
I can't.
My my opinion, I would kind of be like, even though this site visit would be just for the enforcement order, it might be better to follow the rules anyway.
You're
even
right.
if it's not a hearing,
Yeah.
just because of
Because
perception.
it's over. Yep, that's the point. Okay, so how many people? You said you can't make it, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, which is too many. Right?
Yes.
4 is a quorum.
That's 4.
I'll go some other time. I can step back.
Or we can split and just come in waves and pass like shit in the morning.
I'll just go some other time. I'll just
Okay,
make my way over there.
all right.
It's easy.
Yeah, I mean, that's an option too, if we want to just go independently, if the owner is fine with that, we could do that also. We've been there before, we know where we're
Yeah, I
going.
know where I'm going, so.
Yeah. I mean, let me run that by Frank. I can't
Okay.
speak on his behalf, but
Okay.
yeah, I did.
Let's
That seems
do that, let's
reasonable.
keep it easy.
Yeah.
We just need to get eyes on it again, I think, and if they're fine with us going independently, we can just go
Okay.
in ones and not avoid the whole issue.
All right, so you guys are gonna look at it yourselves for the invasive species area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a point to go at some point too and get pictures if they just
Okay.
have everyone else have
Sure.
them and then,
Yeah.
if you get there, there's a quorum of other people, just leave.
Yeah, do you want to let us
Okay.
know if it's okay with the owner though?
Yeah,
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 I'll
let Cassie
I'll
know.
let them know to go through Cassie to let you guys.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back to your point of contact.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Someone let me know if they go.
Okay.
To there. I don't remember.
Okay, spoke too soon when I said we knew where we were going.
But you said- Where's-
Most of us know where we're
where's
going.
Casey Top?
Well, it's not there anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure somewhere.
Yeah. All right, and then we'll revisit this next
Next
time.
time. Yeah.
Great, thank
All
you.
set?
Yep.
Great, thank you all.
Good
All
night.
right.
yeah.
Moving on then, we have a new enforcement order at the 6973 Loudville Road site, map 140, 139, lot 28, 29/11, enforcement order 2023-001. Kathy, do you want to fill everybody in?
Yeah, okay, so, they're here to speak to the item, but if it's all right, I'll explain how it went down for me first. So, I received a call on March 22nd from the butter, about concern from them about a pump being used, on the main basin that's existing on site. And I went out there right after I got the call and found that there was a pipe hooked up to the main basin that's there. And it was, pumping water, turbid water out of the basin. The outlet pipes went over the erosion controls and down the slope. And I climbed down the slope to see how it was going down there. And, there was a large accumulation of sediment there, as well as turbid water entering Hannah Brook. So I called all the people associated with the project, and they responded and were able to confirm that they wouldn't let that be turned back on. I should say before that, I had some folks who were there turn off the pump. They were working on the foundation of one of the buildings and were not familiar with how it was set up or why it was there, but they were nice enough to turn it off for me. And yeah, then I spoke with Ken from Premium Home Builders, I think, sorry, Premier, excuse me, Home Builders, and he confirmed that it would not be turned back on. And I just notified the applicant, the permittee, that we should plan to come to the meeting, that we would like to issue an enforcement order that day. So I did issue an enforcement order that is available to the commission for ratification. And let's see, do we want more? We'll keep going. I heard back from DEP and all that. So I reached out to DEP. I sent the enforcement order to the permittee and DEP notified me that the construction general permit have also expired, which is the permit issued by the EPA for the stormwater pollution prevention plan and all that good stuff. So I'm trying to think if there was anything else.
And DEP recommended that we reach out to EPA.
Yes, correct. And I have not done that yet. I'm sorry, but I will do that. I'm trying to figure out who the right person to contact is. So, yeah.
And you have pictures, Cassie?
I do. Hold on just a second. So I'll show the pictures that are from the enforcement order document. So it's kind of in a nice order. But if I have more pictures, if you'll like to see them. Okay. So the abutter described the pump as going all day, but they weren't able to tell me what time it started at. It was turned off at 4 p.m. So you can see the inlets to the pump here in the turbid water of the basin moving on. That's the pump right there, that yellow little device there. Okay, so we're going over the erosion controls, as you can see here and here. This is one of the outlets. The other outlet is just out of frame below. And then you kind of see it slopes down quite dramatically in this area naturally. So this kind of gives you an idea of what was straight ahead. So it drops off and then goes down. You can kind of see some of the accumulated sediment from here and the stream beyond. This is looking back up the slope of the main force of water coming down, possibly some scour happening as a result of that. This is the accumulation of the sediment. This is like the central area. So I was describing it. It kind of extended to either side. So this is looking back towards the brook. The brook is forward here in the background here. And it's along this kind of flat area, and it kind of extends to either side, to the right and left here. The accumulation. This is kind of the extent, as far as I could tell, the visible extent to the left of just the sediment accumulation. Looking back up from the extent to the, I guess I would say, this is looking southwest. So it's going to be extent the other way, just kind of looking back up at it. And then it would carry on. So there was the immediate flow seemed to be carrying on in the downstream direction. This is kind of the beginning of that flow carrying on. Goes farther, kind of going perpendicular to the brook now, which is to the left. And then it enters the brook here, and there's some damage to the bank. And you can see it's causing some turbid water. From the main area, the central area of where the sediment accumulation was also occurring, there was just some kind of general, I didn't see any channelized flow of the turbid water, but it seemed to be seeping maybe through the ground or something upstream of where that main contact point was. So upstream of this location, it was kind of just generally seeping, the turbid quality was seeping into the Hannum Brook there as well. So I was in contact with the permittee, and they set up erosion controls around the just the main sediment accumulation area, which includes silt fence and straw wattle, just as a preliminary measure. But I explained to them that the commission, at a minimum, would likely want all of that sediment removed as part of the restoration, but there would likely be more restoration required, but we just need more information at this stage. So,
do we have photos of how it stands today? with the
I
controls
don't
in
know if you
place?
have any, I have some of the controls from this weekend that were added, so hold on just a second. Those would be in this email here. There we go. I need to, these pictures are pretty small, but I can find the email from a big, but maybe this will be good enough. So I can find better pictures. These are just from the email, but I didn't download the pictures yet.
What are those pictures of?
This is of the silt fencing that they added around the accumulated sediment once it was discovered.
Oh, okay, so that's down near
Yes,
Hannibal.
yes. I can get into my email. Let's see.
All right, so I think our first order of business is to approve the enforcement order, ratify the enforcement order. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Have folks had a chance to review? I think you sent this around to everyone, right, Cassie?
Yes.
Has anybody had a chance to review? Do you need me to read over any of it? So the order was cease and desist from any activity affecting the buffer zone and resource areas. Resource area alterations shall be corrected and the resource areas returned to their original condition, and a restoration plan shall be filed with the issuing authority on or before 3/27, which is today, for the following: complete removal of unpermitted fill material, as well as restoration of the impacted jurisdictional areas at a minimum. Any additional remediation requirements to be determined by the commission at the next public meeting after further investigation and evaluation is completed. All right. We need to vote. Sorry. We have a motion. It's not until we vote.
Motion that we ratify the enforcement order for Loudville Road.
So we have a second.
Second.
All those in favor, Ryan, Weeks,
Aye.
August, Whittemore,
Aye.
Carr,
Aye.
Buttrick,
Aye.
motion carries. All right, I will pass this around for signatures.
Also, it's helpful. You guys also were able to submit just so your preliminary assessment of the extent, like a markup of the violation area. I can share that on the screen if that's helpful for everybody.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay.
Do we have an estimate yet of the square footage impacted?
We haven't measured it, but my guess is maybe around 2,000 to 3,000 square feet.
Okay. And Cassie, was there any further input from DEP that the commission should be aware of?
So let's see. So there was a concern about the construction general permit, and then there was, oh, thank you. There was information about potential for stop work or what capacity the commission has for that. They were concerned that there was, the project is not in compliance with Stormwater Standard 8. If that makes sense for management of stormwater on site. They should be in the binder. If you want to see what the stormwater standards are, I think they're near the back.
Don't have them memorized.
Yeah, sorry, I don't remember what it says exactly either, but, it should be like way near the back.
Standard 8 is a plan to control construction-related impacts, including erosion, sedimentation, and other pollutant sources during construction, land disturbance activities, construction period erosion, sedimentation, and pollution prevention plan shall be developed and implemented, etc.
And I think that,
And the requirement for the NIPD SWIP as well is part of 8.
yeah. And I think that relates to, a broader concern about why accumulation of that water is there in that basin, since that's the basin that's going to be used at the end.
Mhm.
And there needs to be like a new basin constructed just to catch during construction. Like if there's a problem with that turbid water being in that basin, you need to get that water out. You need to make a new basin that's going to receive that turbid water potentially. I'm not sure. That's my understanding of what seemed that TDP was getting at, the circuit breaker.
Do we have a copy of the stormwater management plan? I'm sure it must be here on hand.
I think so. It's probably whatever the biggest file in there is, but I think I have a digital copy as well.
We're happy to speak on everything too, when you want us to.
Yeah, yeah. Is that it? No? That's the names.
Very acceptable.
Let's see. So I have a digital copy of this SWIP here. Sometimes it's so big I don't print it out. So there isn't, that's why. Digital copy of what? The stormwater pollution prevention plan.
There is a reference to temporary sedimentation basins to be constructed based on construction needs as determined by the contractor with outlet devices designed to control velocity and sediment. Have any temporary basins been constructed to date?
Yeah, I think there's a couple right near, before the basin on the left, you had that stone, the pipe weir.
Yeah, we dug the foundation, so there was one there.
Yeah.
On the low spot, it would kind of discharge, that the water would flow in that direction towards, not the area that stuff went down into, a different area. So the pond itself has a sediment core bank.
I'm so sorry. Can you guys say your name for the record?
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
I'm Carlos from G&G Construction, Carlos Gonzalez.
And when this was discovered, were the materials already on site in stock to contain as necessary, as required and stated in your?
Yeah, we have them in the condo, the silt fence and the wattles. Yes, we have some, we have to get more, but we did have rolls of silt fence and wattles in the unit number 10.
Can you speak to why the basin was being dewatered to begin with?
I wasn't on site, but we had talked about, we have some final work to do on the pond, and we had talked about pumping out some water of the pond. Clearly, my guys, the way they did it, it's not the proper way. I wasn't there, but still, I gotta take responsibility because we're the ones that did it. And there's, there's not much I can do besides apologize for that happening, but that's the reason why we're pumping it. So there's some final work. The pond is 95% done, but there was just a little bit of work left. I mentioned pumping it, but I would have pumped it with sediment bags and not into the wetlands. everybody's clear, everybody at work is now very clear on it though. I made it very clear. So what has to be done and the way it has to be done.
Is there further dewatering to be done, or what's the status of the basin now?
There's water in it, but right now I'm gonna just let it infiltrate. I was just trying to get a head start on, the spring's here, but I'll just let it infiltrate now.
Questions from the commission? So Cassie, you're going to reach out to EPA as DEP suggested, requested.
Yes.
Has there been any suggestion or discussion with DEP about them coming out to look at the site?
No, not yet. No, but I would ask.
I think that would be a good thing to request. This is a more significant violation than we've dealt with, at least in recent times. I think it would be good to have their input on how to approach the restoration and what would be acceptable. I know that Mark had mentioned they have issued significant fines for similar things in the past. Do we have any sense of what the process is by which they make those determinations?
I don't know, and it was a partnership with the Attorney General's office. What Mark Simpson, the circuit rider, DEP circuit rider, was able to provide should be in the, I don't know if I printed it out, but I can show it on the screen. There was what the mitigation ended up being, the plan for that Williamsburg project where that violation had occurred. So he said that might be a good thing for the commission to use for its consideration, but I think still they'd be willing to come do a site visit. I would be surprised if she wasn't.
Okay. And Dan, you may be able to help me out on this. If the NIPD's SWIP is expired, are they technically allowed to be doing any work on the site?
Good question. What are we talking about? Expired? Exactly.
The NIPD's SWIP with the EPA. Which is also a requirement under Stormwater Standard 8.
I can speak to that. This is Ryan from RLA. So obviously there was a SWIP, a stormwater pollution prevention plan in place. We had a NIPD's construction general permit that was in place. EPA had issued a new construction general permit for 2022 that went into effect February 15th. We prepare hundreds of SWIPs, so it got lost in which ones need to be renewed. So that's something I can do first thing tomorrow morning. It's not an issue. The plan itself remains the same, but it's just the online coverage portion that needs to be renewed.
And are the people who are assigned to be the stormwater inspectors certified under the new requirements of that new SWIP?
That would be myself, and I have taken the class. I'm a certified inspector, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that still leaves the question of whether work is allowed to continue before that's back in place. And I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. Dan,
well, I mean, I guess I would say that they're out of compliance with federal, like the federal paperwork. But, as far as we're concerned, I would think they should just be following the different things that are in place under the Wetland Protection Act.
I think DEP's point, though, was that if they're out of compliance with the SWIP for EPA, that they're inherently out of compliance with Stormwater Standard 8.
Yeah, I guess maybe. The outcome is the same, though. Like restoration plan, figuring out how to solve the problem. I'm not a stickler on paperwork myself, so I don't have those answers off the top of my head.
And Ryan, the thing you have to file tomorrow morning, is that like a given that will just be
Yeah, so it's-
automatically happen by tomorrow
a
morning?
Self-submission, the contractor certifies it. It doesn't require any review or approval
But is,
from EPA.
so will it happen like tomorrow morning or does it take a few days?
No,
So as soon as you submit it, it's considered,
so the
approved
process
again?
is the preparer, which would be myself, submits it, and then the contractor has to log in and certify it, which would be Carlos.
okay.
So, it's not a very long process at all.
Carlos, can you assure us that that will be done by the time they
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
get back to work? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that takes care of that.
Yeah, I think that's the best outcome for that item.
Great. All right. And then in terms of, so what have you all had a chance to discuss? And by you all, I mean the applicant and various parties, a restoration plan beyond the sketch that we have here?
Just its basic components. I was kind of waiting tonight to see if there were any additional details the commission offered, but essentially I broke it down to kind of two components. One would be removing the sediment from the wetland area, and trying to restore kind of that organic mat best we can. And then the second portion is fixing the eroded slope at the top of the slope. And I think that can be done from, the general work area. I know it's beyond the silt fence, but from the top of the slope with an excavator, I think that can be filled in, stabilized with erosion control blanketing. Just a question of how do we remove the sediment from the wetland area? As you guys know, it's a pretty steep slope, so you're not necessarily going to be carrying that up the hill by hand. So, and it is a large amount too. So a machine could get it done very quickly. By hand could be done, but it would take a while.
And meanwhile, it's contained, it's not going in the brook.
Right, correct.
What would it look like if you were going to approach it by hand? Are we talking like wheelbarrows and shovels, or what would that process be?
5-gallon buckets.
Yeah, because do you know how long and steep the slope is? I don't know if you have that
It's gotta
number.
be a 40-foot drop so. Yeah, you can barely walk up it with a walking stick, so I don't think carrying anything, you're gonna be able to walk up the hill.
And how would you access that area if you were going to take equipment down to do the work? You're not gonna drive down that slope either, I would assume.
Is that a pretty good walking path? Yeah, there's a kind of a rampart cut out in a different section of the property. Maybe could utilize that traverse our way over to there.
Maybe we should look at that.
Yeah, can we pull the plan back up, Cassie, that
Yeah.
shows the sketch of the impact area? It seems like anything that's not slope is BVW, so we'd be talking about additional impacts just to get to the material.
Potentially, I haven't really looked at what route would be taken. Do some temporary things like put down mats or even plywood, a mini excavator with tracks plywood down doesn't really do much harm.
Okay. Do you know about where that access point was you're describing?
Which one are you talking about? Yeah, the couple here. It's here.
Oh, I see.
So you were standing right in front of where you were pointing.
Sorry, that's
Can you know?
So you have a very gentle slope coming in here. Or here. Very walkable.
Walkable, but what about equipment?
I'll have to take a closer look at it.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at first.
Set up a rope.
Do you have a sense of how many cubic yards of material we're talking about removing?
I don't really have an exact square footage, so no, I'm not sure. For just like estimation purposes, if we did 3,000 square feet times, what do you think it's 6 inches deep? Times 0.5, 5 by 27, it's like 55 cubic yards or so.
So we're talking about several truckloads of material.
If sediment is being removed, how do we know what else is being like dug up or removed with the sediment?
Right, so
So the excavation would happen on top of leaf litter, so you're never gonna get it perfect. So if there's any over excavation, obviously we'd have to top dress it and seed it and whatnot. But the idea would be just to skim and remove just enough to get down to the leaf litter layer.
Cassie, are you sharing the area where the impact is? It's
Nope,
Okay.
this was showing where there potentially could be a way to get down. It's between units 9 and 10.
right.
But it's
Where's the
still,
impacted area?
you know, that gets you halfway down. It still looks steep once you get to the bottom, that gradual incline.
Is that where it occurred, Cassie, at the bottom there, that basin?
That red. This red circle here is where the sediment has accumulated. The basin here is where the sediment originated.
And the place we were talking about walking in is way up in the other half of the zone.
In between 9 and 10, sounds like generally is a good way to reference it. But yeah, so you gotta come down and traverse over.
And is that, I was not on the site visit when we were originally permitting this project. Is that BVW all forested? Would there even be a path to drive equipment through to that point, or would we be talking about tree removal?
It's mature forest, there's a lot of hemlocks with an open understory, so I think there's a way to snake through there.
For me, driving across the BVW would be an absolute last resort.
Yeah.
Want to exhaust all of the possibilities. Like perhaps a vacuum, like catch basin cleaning truck with a HDPE pipe extension going down the slope that the sediment could be hand shoveled into and then sucked up to the top. If that's possible. It's a pretty tall slope, but
I looked into it, and so far everybody I've talked to that has one, there's somebody in Hartford that has a more powerful one, I guess, because it's long distance. So the people I've talked to, they can't suck up that length and that height. But I did get a number of somebody that's in I think in Hartford. I was going to call tomorrow morning. I got the number today.
Okay.
yeah.
But I think, Carlos can probably attest to it, but you could get a mini down there at direct route, cabled it to a bigger machine or something, but then how do you get what you're digging out? A mini with the arm and the blade, you can get down some pretty steep slope, but how are you getting the material out?
What about a rope tow?
What's
Like a
that?
ski, like with ski resort, they have rope tows. They carry
Yeah,
people.
I thought about that, if you had some sort of like a mini dumpster or waste bag or something, but when you're dragging up the slope, obviously you're gonna be barring the slope, disturbing it.
None of it's going through the air on a rope tow.
I thought about a crane too. I'm not sure the crane can get.
It's a long ways.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah, I think you can do the distance. It's the trees that I think it's got to navigate. I'm not sure there's a clear shot.
that would
might
be slow. I mean, if you're just filling 5-gallon buckets and stick them on a rope, it keeps getting pulled up the hill by a machine.
So I'd like to ask about, since the company has this extreme violation, how are we assured that, one, it won't happen again, and two, the cleanup would, because we've never dealt with this before that I'm aware of, would we want another company to come in to do the cleanup?
Not necessarily. I think there's a potential that we might require an additional outside monitor for the cleanup. I think we've done things like that before. But there's, as long as we agree to an approach, there's no reason why they wouldn't be able to do the work if it's something that's within your abilities.
And our assurance that this dewatering won't happen again?
Oh, I mean, I'm not going to allow it to happen again. I know that. You're not going to see my company do it. I mean, we've been in business 40 years, and this is the first time I've ever sat before a conservation committee. I've worked around with a lot of wetlands, worked on sites that the EPA actually came on and never had a SWIP book and all that when I could do it. We've never had any violation or anything of any kind in 40 years. So I know you guys aren't happy, but I'm definitely not any happier than you are.
I'm just trying to comprehend how that even happened in the first place. Pumping water down into, the steep riverbank area, all wetlands around. Okay. Is there monitoring today? What's the frequency of a monitor reporting back?
So there's the typical erosion control monitoring. We get the reports weekly.
That's correct. Yep.
Rain event.
Rain events, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing of it, it's the weekly monitoring has been getting done, and the after rain event has also been getting done. So this happened just on a day that wasn't raining. So it's not, I would say it's not surprising to me that the monitor wasn't there to catch it, because it's not an activity that you anticipated happening.
Yeah, I usually inspect on Fridays, so this happened on
Thursday.
So.
I mean, sort of seems like, is it like an employee education thing? Like,
And maybe more of an employee termination thing, actually. It goes without saying that they were spoken to and they're not gonna do it again, but that doesn't help with this cause.
Right. So as far as moving forward, it sounds like the vacuum idea, I think, would be the potentially most effective and least additional impacts if we can figure out a way to make that work. So I'm interested to hear what you hear back. And yeah, I'm in agreement with Dan that driving the distance we would have to go through additional BBW and the added impacts from that, if we access from the point between buildings 9 and 10, does not appeal to me. I'd like to look at all the other options first. So I think, Kathy, have you seen the erosion controls in person?
No.
Do you have time to get out in the next day or so to take a look at those?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to make sure that we're comfortable that everything is contained. We're moving into spring when we're going to get potentially heavy rains. I want to make sure we're very comfortable that everything is fully locked in, that we're not seeing any further impacts from that area while we deal with this, and that'll give us a little bit of time to sort out the best approach. And then, we want to hear as soon as you have more information about what is and is not viable. And once you have some ideas, which I'm hoping we can get that sorted out kind of this week, what could work. And then I think it'd be good if we could potentially do a visit to think about those options and see how they would actually play out on the site. I don't know if it would be possible to maybe plan that for Saturday.
Which Saturday?
This Saturday, if we're able to get.
I won't be available.
You won't be available.
I'm gonna be out of state, but
Okay.
I don't have to go, certainly. So if you do all want to do the Saturday and it works for others, we would need to be there.
I could potentially do the end of the day Friday also.
Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be there either.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, it's a rain event tonight and tomorrow, right? What about Wednesday?
Wednesday sounds like.
I don't think Wednesday will give you enough time to explore the options.
Not all of them. Definitely.
Yeah, and I'd like to have a suite of options to consider so we can be thinking about how those would actually work on the site.
it's supposed to.
Yeah. Just to expand on that idea, it would be nice to have like a fairly detailed, like written out alternatives analysis to just show all the different things that you end up looking into in case we do end up in a situation where going in across the wetlands is the only way to do it. Because that's really the only way that I think we'd be able to get to that point. And especially if DEP is looking at this too, they're not gonna love it either, and they're gonna be making sure that we do our due diligence.
Right.
Going back to the vacuum idea with the, I've going back early in my career, with a slope this high, once you start drawing a vacuum that's powerful enough, you can actually collapse the suction line, and it just may be like too high of a slope to do it. But if it were possible to excavate a ramp down like partway on the slope to get a vacuum truck lower and more close, then that I would rather disturb like the upper half of the slope, for example, than disrupt the wetlands. Although I don't know what's constructed already down in that corner, if those houses are there and if the stormwater basin's there and all. Well, I guess the stormwater basin is there, but I don't know. What I'm kind of just trying to say is that like every cockamamie idea, I think we should consider.
Yeah.
Those that sound wacky on the face and those that sound more plausible.
Right.
Yep.
And that's a good point about documenting the alternatives and the impacts associated with them for DEP's sake as well as our own. So that makes me think that the end of the week is probably too quick. What seems like a reasonable time period to both explore the options, think through impacts, quantify all of that, and be able to write something up that we can consider.
And the next week? Yeah.
Okay, so that's the 7th?
Yes, that'll be this Friday, the 7th.
Okay.
For discussion at the next meeting, basically.
Yeah, because our next meeting then is the 10th. Okay, so let's do that. And then we'll schedule a visit at that meeting when we're talking about those. That sound achievable?
Yep.
Okay.
Would you have time tomorrow to go with me to the site? So if there is stuff that I want added to the controls, or I can call you after.
Yes, what time are you thinking?
Really, I could do, I think, any time. Hold on, let me just check my schedule here. I can't do from 9 to 10, but I
That's
could do
fine.
before or
I
after.
have at 10 o'clock, so like any time noon or onwards.
Okay, let's film for 12:30 then.
Okay.
Can I join you?
What's that?
Can I join you?
I would, yeah, for sure.
I don't think there's any serious rain in the afternoon tomorrow. Looks like it's early in the morning.
Okay.
All right, so to recap, we're going to see a written alternatives analysis with impact numbers and a better quantification of the amount of sediment that we're dealing with on or before March 7th.
April 7th.
April 7th, sorry, thank you. Which we will then discuss at the April 10th meeting. Cassie, Ryan, and Jay are going to do a visit tomorrow to check on the existing protections. If there's a need to beef anything up based on that visit, that will be done immediately so that we're protected from rain going forward. And then we will revisit on the 10th, and Cassie's going to be reaching out. Well, Ryan's going to be updating the SWIP tomorrow morning, and that's going to be certified by the contractor tomorrow as well. And Cassie's also going to be checking in with EPA as DEP instructed, and checking in with DEP about whether they want to be involved in the site visit when we go out there. I think that was everything. Did I miss any action items?
I just have a question about that. I know it's an enforcement order, because it has reached down to the 200-foot riverfront. Can we request a wildlife biologist for either what's happening now or after the fact if it has affected the habitat?
I think habitat concerns certainly can be part of the restoration plan. So we'll have to think about how to look at that. But yeah, I think the habitat question and any additional habitat restoration would definitely be appropriate. Especially because we know that there was a release of sediment into the brook itself. So it might be appropriate, Cassie, you might ask DEP how they've dealt with that before. We won't have good baseline data, but it would be helpful to know if there's been a lasting impact on the in-stream habitat and what approaches might help to mitigate that. I don't know off the top of my head what that would be. Okay. I feel like we have logistics to figure out in terms of how to deal with the sediment in the BVW, but we all kind of can imagine what that restoration looks like. We need to get it out of there and try to leave the underlying materials as intact as possible, but I'm not sure how the in-stream restoration piece would get framed, and that is important here too, from the images that we saw. Did you happen to go downstream, Cassie, to get a sense of how far that stretched?
Not beyond that last picture downstream where it was like the stream was having a new stream attached to it of the turbid water. So I did not have an opportunity to go beyond that area because I just wanted to get up to get it turned off.
Yeah. Okay. What was the point at which it was branching? Did it look clearer? Water?
So yeah, so upstream of where any of the sediment was, it was much clearer. That's how I could tell that there seemed to be some kind of like just general like seepage coming through from that central area. And then so it got a little cloudy, and then there was the point where it was like kind of a flow directly entering the stream, and then you could see in that image where it really was like entering it.
I went downstream.
Well, I didn't get a chance to go downstream, so I don't know if it was clearing up again. I know, Deb, you said Hannah Brook carries on to go under West Street.
Well, yeah, we were going through where it crosses under West Street, and there's beavers making a dam, and the waters seemed higher, but I'm not sure.
Did you ever notice if it was cloudy, the water was cloudy? Or?
I took a few pictures.
Right, yeah, we can look at the pictures.
I couldn't tell.
I also should note, public attendee Garrett Stover with PCT's raised his hand. I don't know if we want to take public comments.
Okay, we can in a minute. It occurs to me actually, we do have a control point because we know where our impacts started, so we could compare upstream conditions in water with those in the impact area. And so, it may make sense. I think it would be a good idea as part of the restoration to have someone do an assessment of that habitat who has the appropriate qualifications to quantify the differences and the potential impacts there and recommend some approaches for restoration. Garrett, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'll try and be measured about this. One of the things about Hannah Brook that's made it particularly precious is that the water is incredibly clear. And it's been stocked with fish, so I assume it's a cold water fishery. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you.
It looks like it enters into the Manhan right behind Glendale Grill.
Cassie, if you could also, when you reach out to DEP, inquire about the in-stream assessment and if they have references or recommendations for how to approach that.
Okay, I can do that.
Because that too is not something I think we've had to deal with in an enforcement order before. But thank you, Deb. That is a very, very good point because it's not just the visible, still visible on the surface impacts that we're dealing with. It's the stream itself. All right. So I think we have a strategy. And we'll obviously revisit this in more detail on the 10th.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Cassie, I would like to make, I've scribbled all my notes on here. I'd like to make a copy of this. Just take it.
Yeah, if you want
Okay.
to, because I can print that easily again.
Okay, great.
That's easier.
All right. Moving on, open space updates. Do we have anything on Echo West?
No updates.
All right. Which projects do we have compliance updates for?
That I'm pretty sure is the only one. Let me make sure. So I've highlighted the Ferry Street projects just because there's an ongoing, request certificate of compliance that's not yet been resolved. And I highlighted for Loudville Road, obviously for the item just discussed. And that was all I had for other projects.
Okay. Any movement from the city on any of theirs that need closed out?
Yeah, no, and that's partially my fault. I just need to get on them to do it. So I apologize. It's just
Okay.
been busy, but I can reach out to them for that.
Okay. All right, general business, we have meeting minutes from March 13th. Are those ready for? They're not.
I
Okay,
apologize.
that's fine. We'll move those to next time. You had your hands full. And the wetlands ordinance discussion. Did the working group have, I don't think there was anything particular we were ready to bring back to the larger group tonight. We did have another meeting. We're making progress, but we have another meeting scheduled in a couple, it's about a month out, actually.
Yeah.
We had a lot of schedule issues. So I think we will probably have something to discuss with the larger group more in May.
Yes, I think that's right. I'm just double checking to see when our next one was going to be, but I think, yeah.
I think it was like late April, maybe.
Yeah.
Was it
Oh, here we go. Sorry, Wednesday the 19th.
Wednesday.
Okay, mid-April.
So mid,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I told you I may or may not actually be able to do that.
Oh, yeah.
TBD. So
Okay.
that was why I was thinking it was later. Okay. Any other general business?
The peer review draft, does that have to get discussed in the context of
It should be.
them being continued?
Yes, we'll discuss it as part of the hearing.
So it can't get finalized and sent out for RFPs until you meet with them again?
Correct. And there's part of we also wanted the additional data that they are delaying for to be able to go out with that. So I don't think that the delay there is not on our side. We're waiting for that to be ready for peer review. Any other new business? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, Ryan?
Aye.
Weeks?
Aye.
August?
Aye.
Whittemore?
Aye.
Carr?
Aye.
Buttrick?
Aye.
All right, it is 7:05. We are concluding the March 27th meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission, and our next meeting will be April 10th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, won't let me. Oh, I just stopped it, Frank. Sorry. Hold on, everybody. Won't let me. I was trying to end the meeting and it wouldn't let me.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.